The movie opens with Dan Kyung, a quiet woman who loves drawing. However, despite her grit, she has never managed to break through as an artist. Instead, she remains an ordinary academy instructor. After class, Dan Kyung confides in one of her students, Tae-byung, her good friend and also the man she secretly has feelings for. She admits that she has always lived in the shadow of her older sister Ju-kyung, a world-famous manga artist whose work tops global sales. Tae-byung comforts her, telling her not to compare herself to others and to draw as if she believes she is the best. Then Dan Kyung is about to show him the webtoon she has been working on. But before she can, Tae-byung receives a text message and leaves in a hurry. She watches him go, disappointed once again. The next day, another instructor, Kim, wins a major online webcomic competition. Her work is set to be published by a large webtoon agency, and everyone gather around her in celebration. Dan Kyung smiles along with them, but inside, she feels crushed. She had secretly submitted her own work to the same competition and received nothing. That night, Dan Kyung stares at Kim's winning drawings on her screen. She cannot understand why she is always left behind, no matter how hard she tries. While scrolling, she receives a request to draw adult manga. Driven by frustration, she creates a lewd version of a comic character by Kim and uploads it. The next day, the work is discovered. Kim and the academy principal confronts Dan Kyung, unable to believe that a fellow instructor would do something like this, especially someone teaching young students. Dan Kyung breaks down, insisting it was a mistake. Kim is furious, and the academy dismisses Dan Kyung immediately. Soon after, her sister Ju Kyung is summoned to the academy. Standing beside Dan Kyung, she bows and apologizes on her sister's behalf. Later, Dan Kyung goes to Ju Kyung's lavish office. Her sister scolds her, warning her never to do something like that again. Ju Kyung offers to transfer 10 million won to cover the settlement. Dan Kyung refuses. She tells her sister she wants to handle this on her own and stop living in her shadow. Ju Kyung then suggests that Dan Kyung work on an upcoming comic under her art mentor, Mr. Mok. Dan Kyung hesitates, unsure if she is good enough. Ju Kyung tells her that if she never tries, she will never know. The next day, Dan Kyung visits Mr. Mok as her sister suggested. She is nervous but excited to meet him, knowing he is a legend in the field. There, she is introduced to two artists working under him, Gion and Sun. Gion immediately looks down on her. He gives her a task on the spot, to draw a human portrait in 1 minute. When she finishes, he burns the drawing in front of her, calling it messy and unoriginal. Dan Kyung apologizes and promises to try harder, but Gion coldly replies that he only needs the best. Later, Sun explains that Gion's hostility is not entirely her fault. Gion has held a grudge against Ju Kyung for years. Even though he trained under Mr. Mok longer, it was Ju Kyung whom Mr. Mok chose to push toward success. Now, Gion takes his resentment out on Dan Kyung. Sun then shows Dan Kyung his own work and introduces her to a dark website where artists earn large sums through anonymous commissions. The only condition is that they must draw whatever the client requests. The images are so graphic that Dan Kyung gags and turns away. From then on, Dan Kyung works under Mr. Mok, running odd jobs and assisting his team. She is clumsy and often makes mistakes, drawing sharp criticism from Gion. Mr. Mok, however, remains patient, encouraging her to keep going even when she feels like giving up. Later, Dan Kyung meets Tae-byung and tells him she is now working under Mr. Mok. He congratulates her, then shares that he is no longer attending the academy. At first, Dan Kyung thinks it is because of her. Instead, she learns that he has been dating instructor Kim all along, and since she has left, there is no reason for him to stay. The truth hits her hard. She wants to escape this life, but to do that, she needs money. With no other option, Dan Kyung turns to the dark web. She creates a profile under the name Taiji and receives her first commission request for 400,000 yen. Tempted by the payment, she agrees. After receiving the money, the first thing she does is return the settlement fee. But instead of anger, Kim apologizes, admitting she was too harsh previously, and even returns the money. Instead of relief, Dan Kyung feels smaller than before, as if she is not even worth being angry at. That night, Dan Kyung begins drawing on the dark web. But it's no longer the cute, innocent manga she used to make. Her work is bloody and violent, a complete departure from her old self. One night, a client named Hanya makes a chilling request: draw the person she wants to kill. Impulsively, she starts drawing Kim. For the first time, Dan Kyung feels free in her art. Soon, messages flood in praising her work, and she shoots to #1 on the dark web. Her confidence grows, her style changes, she dresses up, wears makeup, and her whole presence commands attention. Back at the studio, Mr. Mok asks for opinions on his new science fiction manga. Jian and Sam say it is good to go, but Dan Kyung, confident for the first time, offers suggestions that impress Mr. Mok. Even Ju Kyung is happy for the change in her sister. Then the scene shifts to a murder scene. The victim is Miss Kim. When Dan Kyung hears the news, she rushes to the academy and sees Tae Byum grieving. She begins to suspect Hanya is involved, as she told him about Miss Kim's whereabouts and fears she has indirectly caused her death. Then a message arrives, a photo of Kim's corpse from the client, thanking her for her amazing work. She is shocked to realize the killing mirrors exactly what she drew. Panicked, Dan Kyung hurls her phone. Running in terror, she bumps into Detective Lee, who is investigating Kim's murder. She reveals the drawings linked to the crime were found on the dark web, and they are hunting down the artist. She feigns ignorance and later deletes all her chat logs, hoping to bury the truth. Later, the scene cuts to Dan Kyung sitting in the police station. Detective Lee asks why she didn't report the incident sooner, and the film flashes back to the day of the murder. Mr. Mok announces the serialization of the science fiction manga and promotes Dan Kyung to the official team. Though still unsure of herself, she hears him say she has the hands of a stellar manga artist. For the first time, she feels hopeful, and she cannot afford to get caught now, so she hatches a plan. That evening, the team celebrates with drinks. Sun gets drunk, and Dan Kyung hacks his laptop, planting evidence to frame him as the artist behind Kim's murder drawings. She sends fake text messages and disables the bypass, making it traceable. Gion notices her leaving, but she claims she's retrieving something. The next day, police raid Mr. Mok's studio and arrest Sun. Outside, Dan Kyung watches, convinced she's escaped danger. Detective Lee spots her and asks if she knows anything else, but she again plays clueless. Meanwhile, Mr. Mok is in dismay. Sun's arrest leaves one less hand to work on the manga. Moments later, Dan Kyung visits Tae Byum. Still depressed, he admits he doesn't know what to do anymore. She takes his hand and tells him there's a vacancy at the studio, now that Sun is detained. Together they head to the studio, where she proposes to Mr. Mok that Tae Byum help with the project for the time being. Gyeon is immediately suspicious and dislikes taking in outsiders, but Mr. Mok agrees as he needs the help. Gyeon erupts, blaming Dan Kyung for all the chaos since her arrival. The argument escalates until Mr. Mok collapses from stress. Because of the incident, Gyeon decides to leave the studio. While packing, he discovers a hidden camera and realizes Dan Kyung tampered with Sun's computer that night. Dan Kyung, at the hospital, receives a photo from Gyeon and rushes to the studio, begging him to let it go. She offers money and even goes to her knees, pleading for forgiveness. Gyeon, furious, says she doesn't deserve to be an artist and demands she disappear. Hearing those words triggers Dan Kyung, and she lunges for the camera footage in his hands. He shoves her to the floor. Scrambling up, she grabs a pen and attacks him, shouting that she deserves to be a manga artist and that she's #1 on the dark web. Suddenly, a shadowy figure emerges behind Gyeon and strangles him. It's Hanya, her dark web client. He praises Dan Kyung's art and reveals he executes the murders exactly as she draws them. Terrified, she watches as he promises to bury the body, leaving no trace. Meanwhile, Ju Kyung learns everything. She tracks down Sam, now released due to lack of evidence. Sam explains the dark web, and Ju Kyung begins to suspect her sister. She logs on and discovers the shocking truth. Dan Kyung is Taiji, the top-ranked dark web artist behind all the deadly drawings. The next day, Dan Kyung visits Mr. Mok, excited to see him recovered. When he asks about Gyeon, she says she hasn't heard from him but promises to do well. But Mr. Mok tells her she still needs more training and will be rehired when ready. Agitated, Dan Kyung insists he needs her. Sun is detained. Gyeon is missing. He has no one else. Mr. Mok scolds her, reminding her there are many talented artists beyond her, and abruptly leaves for a meet and greet. Later, Dan Kyung meets Hanya and opens up about her past. She recalls winning her first award as a child, but it was only because her sister had helped with the drawing. Since then, she has never truly achieved first place on her own. She confesses she wants to be extraordinary, and Hanya promises to help her. That night, in a surge of anger, she draws a violent scene, imagining Mr. Mok's death. The next day, Ju Kyung visits Mr. Mok at his studio. He shows her Dan Kyung's work, praising its extraordinary quality, and suggests they let her and Tae Byum return to the studio to help out with the manga. But Ju Kyung hesitates, knowing the truth now and fearing her sister will ruin everything. Mr. Mok, however, has already made up his mind. Meanwhile, Dan Kyung receives a call from Tae Byum who tells her the good news, and she runs back to the studio excitedly. But shortly after at the studio, Hanya strikes. Dan Kyung arrives and watches in horror as he kills Mr. Mok, slashing his throat despite her protests that the drawing was just an expression of anger. She is paralyzed with fear. Suddenly, the police arrive, after tracking Hanya down, but he microwaves his phone to destroy evidence, and flees. The police find only Dan Kyung at the scene and take her into custody. Back in the present, Detective Lee interrogates Dan Kyung about the dark web drawings. Later, investigators recover data from Hanya's destroyed phone. They identify the killer as Gu Jin, a former classmate who had killed someone in high school but escaped punishment under juvenile law. He has since changed his identity and become a notorious figure on the dark web. Dan Kyung is shown the artwork on his phone, and for the first time she notices something chilling. The drawing of Mr. Mok's death does not contain her watermark. She realizes someone else drew it, but who? Meanwhile, Ju Kyung is at home when Hanya suddenly breaks in, brandishing a knife. He blames Dan Kyung for ruining his life and wants to get revenge by harming her loved ones. In the struggle, Ju Kyung stabs him in the neck with a pen. With his last strength, he removes the pen, takes Dan Kyung's iPad, resets it, and collapses. Back at the station, Dan Kyung studies the recovered manga and comes to a shocking conclusion. The only person capable of creating this level of work must be her sister, but she says nothing to the police. With no concrete evidence, Dan Kyung is released, facing only community service, but the weight of what she knows stays with her. Meanwhile, Ju Kyung continues to excel after taking over Mr. Mok's science fiction comic project. Taebom has joined her team, working under her guidance. One evening, Dan Kyung goes to Ju Kyung's office, confronting the truth. Mr. Mok's commission could only have been completed by her sister. A flashback reveals that night, after Ju Kyung saw her sister's work on the dark web, she had been about to call the police to end the chaos. But a message from Hanya arrived, saying he wouldn't harm Mr. Mok because he couldn't feel the hatred in Dan Kyung's work. That moment twisted Ju Kyung's ambition and fear into resolve. She realized that if Mr. Mok died, she would take over the project, and she feared that Dan Kyung, now skilled and driven, could surpass her and claim her place. Back in the present, Ju Kyung dismisses Dan Kyung, calling her delusional, and slaps her. The sisters lunge at each other, anger and resentment colliding in a physical struggle. Ju Kyung threatens her, her voice cold and final. Even if the truth came out, no one would believe her. Dan Kyung freezes, the words sinking deep, and in that moment, she realizes how small she truly is in the world. That night, Dan Kyung calls Taebom, asking him to meet. She shows him the drawings she has made on the dark web. The images are brutal and unfiltered, revealing the full extent of her involvement in the murders, including the death of Taebom's fiancé. When he sees them, the truth hits him all at once, leaving him completely broken. Not long after, the police arrive. Logging back into the dark web has exposed her. As she is taken away, Dan Kyung feels a quiet clarity settle in. The world may remember her as a criminal, but in the shadows where her art truly matters, she has reached the top. All her life, she has been overlooked and erased. But now, her existence can no longer be denied.